What is up, everybody? This is JP, your online personal trainer, and today I'm here to talk to you about drop sets. I'm going to go a little bit in depth on this, so I'm going to try to, I guess, pick a balance for the people that are saying this. So if this is a little bit complicated for you, I'll try to make it more simple. And for people who already know about this, you may feel like that I'm going kind of slow, but I'm only doing that because there may be some people that don't necessarily know too much about drop sets or the energy systems behind lifting in general, and I have to touch upon the energy systems, basically bioenergetics, to talk about drop sets a little bit. Okay, first things first, what are drop sets? Drop sets, if you haven't heard of them before, is when you lift a particular weight until failure, and then you drop to a lighter weight and then continue lifting during that exercise. For example, let's just say you're curling with 30-pound dumbbells, and then you end up getting 9 reps. The ninth rep was your last rep and you went to failure and you couldn't do any more. So you drop down to 20 pounds and then you continue to do reps because you couldn't do any more curls with 30 pounds, but that doesn't mean you still can't do curls with a lighter weight. So that's basically what a drop set is. You can do multiple drops in one exercise. For example, in that dumbbell curl example I just gave you, you can go from 30 pounds to 20 pounds to 15 pounds to 10 pounds if you really, really wanted to. That'd be extremely hard, but I'll talk about later on whether that's good for beginners or not. You probably already know the answer. But that's basically what a drop set is. Now, to talk about a little bit just about bioenergetics, so you understand that, is when you lift heavy weight, let's just say, I'll do the curling example just to keep it simple. Let's just say you can curl 50-pound dumbbells for 2 reps or 3 reps, 2 or 3 reps. Because it's such a low amount of reps and it's a very heavy weight, we need energy to lift weight. The energy system that our body uses to lift heavy weight is the phosphagen system. And the 2 particular ones in the phosphagen system is ATP, you probably heard of that before, it's adenosine triphosphate, and CP, which is creatine phosphate. So we use both of those forms of energy to lift heavy weight. So basically when you're going for a max bench press, a 3 rep max squat, basically anything under 5 reps or under, the phosphagen system is going to be your primary energy system that you're using to lift that particular weight. So that goes for, like I said, any type of heavy weight. Now, you say, well, what happens? Why is that only for under 5 reps? Well, the phosphagen system runs out fairly quickly. It depletes fairly quickly. Adenosine triphosphate and creatine phosphate, our body doesn't hold a lot of those. And I'm pretty sure it's because, this gets a little bit more in depth, those molecules are extremely heavy. Our body doesn't want to hold extremely heavy molecules, so we only have few of those in our body. So that's why you may think, well, how come we just don't have a bunch as humans? It's because they're very heavy. So after the phosphagen system gets depleted, our body shifts into another energy source, and that energy system is called glycolysis. It's basically where we use, you probably heard of glycogen as energy now. So we go from the phosphagen system to glycolysis, and then so glycolysis is it's like the medium repetition, medium weight. So once your creatine or your phosphagen system runs out, you immediately start going into glycolysis. Now, don't get this confused. It's not like a switch. You're like, oh, the second you're done with the glycolysis, yes, you do go into, the second you're done with your phosphagen system, you start using glycogen, which is the energy, that's what's in glycolysis. It's not like an immediate switch, like you go from one to the next. It's more like a blurred line. And at some form, you could be using, at some level, you could be using both when it starts to transition over to more of using glycogen and the glycolysis energy system. So it's not like, yes, once you're depleted of your phosphagen system, you don't have any more, you're done right there, and you have to rephosphorylate those like during your rest periods. Then you can use those again, but again, that's how it shifts over. So you start off in heavy weight, you're using your phosphagen system, and then for medium weight, medium repetitions, you're using glycolysis, and the energy form of that is basically just glycogen is what it is. It's basically carbohydrates. When you eat carbohydrates, your body digests the carbohydrates, and it goes into a storage form, which is glycogen, and that's the energy system of glycolysis. So sorry if that got a little confusing for people who don't understand that, but I needed to tell you that a little bit to talk about drop sets. Now, like I said, what drop sets are, you just drop weight once you hit failure. This is not the same as high reps. For example, in the same example I did with the biceps curl, if you do 9 repetitions for 30 pounds, you drop down to 20 pounds, and let's just say you get 7 repetitions. That's now a total of 16 reps. And let's just say you drop down to 15 pounds and you get 6 reps. That is now a total of 22 reps. Then you drop down to 10 pounds, let's just say you get 6 reps again. That is a total of 28 reps. So 28 repetitions is what you did total. Now someone will say, well, what's the difference between picking a weight at the beginning that you can do 28 times versus doing drop sets, starting with the heavier weight and dropping weight in increments and then getting a total of 28 repetitions? What's the difference of that? The main difference is that the endocrine response is different based on the amount of lactate in the muscle tissue. For example, when you lift in the drop set example versus just the straight 28 reps of one weight, and the drop set example, you get a certain amount of lactate when you lift the 30 pounds with proper form for 9 reps in the muscle, which basically stops you from being able to lift the weight. When you cannot lift the 30 pounds anymore, there's too much lactate in the muscle. It's too much buildup of lactate, which is what that, basically, you know how when you lift for 9 reps, I'll make it simpler, you feel the burn and you have to stop. And it just burns so bad and it hurts and you just can't lift anymore. That's why you have to stop. So that environment that you're putting your muscle in is what's optimal for muscle growth. That's what basically triggers an anabolic response in your endocrine system, which forces the person to gain muscle. That's the whole point of hypertrophy training, or training to gain muscle mass, is you're trying to trigger an anabolic response from your endocrine system, which forces you to get bigger. That's the reason why you get bigger. So when you're going from 9 reps and then you drop the weight to 8 reps or 7 and 7 or whatever I said earlier in that example, when you were lifting when you were lifting in that medium weight, medium repetitions for glycolysis, you again are building up lactate in the muscle tissue, which is triggering an anabolic response from the endocrine system, which is getting you hypertrophy gains. When you, in the second example of doing one weight for 28 reps straight, not the drop sets, just doing one weight for 28 reps, you would have to pick a relatively lighter weight at the beginning to do 28 reps straight. And this 28 reps straight is not going to get the same anabolic response from your endocrine system as doing the 9 reps, the 7 reps, or the 8 reps, the 7 reps, the 7 reps drop set. So it's not the same. Even though the same amount of reps, the heavier weight, again, builds up lactate more efficiently than the 28 reps will, and then the 28 reps, again, it just doesn't trigger the anabolic response that the heavier weight does. So basically their difference is, to simplify it, as drop sets, because you're using heavier weight when you dropped and you're reaching failure at a lower amount of repetitions than you are with the 28 repetitions in the lighter weight, you are going to trigger an anabolic response from the endocrine system to gain more muscle. So that's basically why, that's the difference between the two, because people get confused. Now, what I have to say is that I talked about drop sets you can use for hypertrophy, like I just said right there, or endurance, and that's one of the bonuses I'll talk about later on, but it's not great for strength training. Why? And again, this goes back to the phosphagen system that I talked to you about. When you're doing strength training, you're lifting with heavy weight. When you take rest periods, like a normal lifter or normal routine, you have a set and then a rest period, a set and a rest period. You're not going to be doing reps the entire workout. You have rest periods in between those sets. When you do strength training, which is heavier weight, lower repetitions, you need more rest period in between your sets to rephosphorylate, or to build back up the ATP and then the creatine phosphate. So basically the energy that you use in your phosphagen system takes longer to build back up during the rest periods than it does for glycolysis when you're doing a medium weight, medium repetitions. That's why you typically see bodybuilders with shorter rest periods, and that's why strength people have longer rest periods. What I tend to think of strength training is think of strength training as a skill. It's a skill. You're not trying to, your goal, even though it will help, your goal is to not trigger an anabolic response from the endocrine system. That is not your primary goal. Obviously, with strength training, your primary goal is to get stronger. And what does that consist of? You can check out my video on strength training if you want to know more about that, but I'm just going to say it real quick. It's being able to, it's a central nervous system adaptation. You want, basically, you want your muscle fibers to work better, to fire all at the same time. You want them to be able to fire and then fire faster too. So yes, basically it's a central nervous system adaptation. You want your muscle fibers to work smarter in general. It's not it's not an endocrine system adaptation. Yes, you will see some endocrine system adaptations. There is going to be greater releases of, for example, testosterone and things like that when you lift heavy, but not nearly to the same extent as hypertrophy training. So because of the long, because you think of strength training as a skill, and because of the long rest periods you're going to have, and you need to be able to lift heavy weight, again, if you're strength training, you need to be lifting near your maximum weight. That's your goal. When you do a drop set, let's just say you did a drop set with strength, and you picked a weight that you could curl 4 times. And then I'm just using curling as an example. You could use this any example as you want, but curling, and you picked a weight that you could curl 4 times. Then you dropped it and you picked a weight that you could curl 3 times. And you picked a weight that you can curl 2 times. And then you dropped it and you picked a weight you can curl 1 time for four drops, or 3 drops, which is four different weights. That's going to cause more muscular fatigue overall. So your next set, you're not going to be able to lift as much weight as you would have if you just had a single set, which is the goal of strength training. And someone may be watching this and saying, well, I know that's my goal, is muscle damage. Well, your goal isn't just to completely destroy the muscle with strength training. Your goal is to get stronger. So again, I wouldn't recommend drop sets for strength training. Now, if you are doing a strength training program and your strength training program has a hypertrophy day that has a drop set on it, that's completely different. That's not your primary strength training day. What I'm saying is, if you're one of your main tools for your strength day, or if you don't have a hypertrophy day at all and you're doing drop sets, you probably could be doing better things for strength. Pyramid sets, negative sets, a bunch of different things. I wouldn't recommend supersets for strength training either, but supersets would be better than drop sets, at least in my opinion. Now to just go over some tips and things about drop sets. They're great for pushing past normal sets. For example, a normal set is you lift a weight until close to failure, then you take a rest period, and that's it. Eventually, you're going to hit a plateau with that. So being able to add in a drop set here or there, or maybe just a few drop sets throughout your workout, could be enough of a change that your body needs to be able to break past the plateau and continue seeing some gains overall. So I definitely like them. They push the intensity a lot more than an intensity is an effort. They make you have put a lot more effort forward than just a regular set. They're great for when you were low on time. That's a big one. A lot of people who have excuses for gaining muscle, I don't have enough time to work out, will increase the difficulty of the workout, and then you won't have to work out for as long. For example, if you did 3 or 4 very intense, I'm talking about 3 drops, let's just say you did 4 sets, and each set was a 3 drop set on your chest for hypertrophy. That's all you would need for chest that day. You wouldn't really need that much. Now, you may want to be a little bit different with your programming if you have time, but for people who don't have time, that would be enough for you to see some type of results. So again, for people who don't have low on time, you have no excuses. There's tons of ways you can work out. It's very uncomfortable, and it's not good for novice lifters, as I mentioned earlier. For someone who's just starting out lifting, even if you've been lifting for a month or 2, I wouldn't throw a bunch of drops. I mean, maybe if you want to throw in 1, that's okay. But for someone who's new to lifting, or maybe someone who's not new to lifting, if you're a trainer watching this and you have someone you're training and they're not necessarily, they can't tolerate as much stress or pain, or I guess you could say they're not as mentally strong as other people, it's going to be uncomfortable, and you have to be able to push yourself and deal with the pain, because it's going to burn really bad. If you absolutely push yourself and you do 3 good drops and you do a proper amount of reps for each drop, it's going to burn very, 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 very bad. It's going to hurt. So again, not for novice lifters, and you have to be really dedicated if you want to have a lot of those. And then another point I brought up earlier is it's great for hypertrophy and it's great for muscular endurance. Muscular endurance, you could do like a 15, drop the weight, do 13, drop the weight, do 13, drop the weight, do 13, or 20, 15, 15, 15, whatever it is that you drop to. You'd be using extremely light weights. Hypertrophy, I gave you an example of that earlier. And then strength training, like I said, I don't really recommend it for. So if you like these types of videos, please like, share, and subscribe. I wanted to go over drop sets because it can be very confusing. Sorry if this video was a little bit confusing. I might have been a little bit all over the place, but I was only like that because there's a lot to talk about. I'm probably going to do a video on supersets, which is different from drop sets, maybe some other forms of training. I did videos generally on these before, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth on this one. But check out my social media, my Instagram, my Facebook, my Twitter, and you're already on my YouTube. But until next time, see ya.